Hello and welcome to the 90s Mag podcast, your Newcastle United podcast, hosted by three lifelong Newcastle United fans. Myself, D-Man, got my co-host Jefferson and AC. As usual, how you doing, guys? You good?
Boy, it's been an interesting week. What up? What up? What up?
What's
Always
up, people?
interesting.
What's up? What's up? What's up? What's going on?
Don't forget to keep the likes coming, the subscriptions and the comments in down below. We appreciate it. Also, we all available on the audio, the Spotify and Apple podcast. But yeah, man, let's get into it. We're gonna do a preview and a review mainly of the Bournemouth game, and we'll touch on the upcoming Forest game in the cup, maybe a bit on Spurs. But yeah, to the nitty gritty. We went down to the Vitality Stadium on Sunday afternoon, and it finished Bournemouth. Or AFC Bournemouth 1, Newcastle United 1. I'm going to start with you, Jefferson. Like overall thoughts on the game, the result, the performance. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, certainly felt a bit like a whoopee cushion, or like the wind had been taken out of our sails somewhat. Apart from that sort of first 15-minute spell where we actually started passing the ball really well, Isak looked a bit dangerous on a couple of opportunities. I thought, oh yeah, like this can be all right today. And then it just went flat. And I think, as I told you guys earlier, I'm not saying that's the case, but it very much appeared like they were playing in a style or a way or a manner to get the manager sacked. It was that bad. And if you if you retrospectively look at the last performance and this performance, levels are not good enough. They're not good enough. Now, rather predictably, we knew what was going to happen, that substitutions would come, although of course we know it's around that 65 minute mark. It did come a little bit earlier.
2 minutes earlier.
2 minutes earlier. So you
Wasn't
could argue it's a little bit late. And when we look at our big chances, we had 4 compared to Bournemouth's 2. And I can think of 3 in particular in that second half. Bruno's one just before the end, Dan Burns, and obviously Joelinton's that kind of brushed off his shoulder. If he got a clean connection on that, who sort of knows? But there's something in there about, if the manager potentially had been more proactive earlier, I'm sure we would have continued sort of rain fire on their goal. But I'm not going to get into VAR too much, but I think we're very, very fortunate to get away with that one. So on the basis that we've somehow miraculously picked up a point, that's obviously a positive, if I could try and find one. But in terms of the standards that we talked about during the summer that we were expecting and the start of the season, it's been really underwhelming, and I'm quite worried, because Southampton and Bournemouth, no disrespect to them, we're talking about a team that's been promoted and another team that sort of finished in the bottom half last season. I'm not saying we should be wiping them away, but the performances has not been good enough.
So I'm going to try and start with a few positives. Now, last season, we got clapped. Yeah, we lost there convincingly. And we picked up a point this time, right? So in terms of that respect, it's a better result. And a point away from home is not a bad result, right? We didn't lose, okay? Other than that, like you said, it's the first 15 minutes, we looked like we was on it, right? Looked a bit like Newcastle old, knocking about well, created a couple opportunities. Isak looked lively. We looked like we was gonna, we take it to Bournemouth, right? We're undefeated for the season. That's another positive, right? But I think that's where it ends. Now, the problem is, not only did we start strongly and then go flat after 15 minutes, it kind of reminded me of like Steve Bruce ball back in the day, like no composure, no control, just kick it up the field. It comes straight back. It's just no possession. It was just awful. Isak looked so isolated. It was a frustrating watch. And my problem is that all right, we know under Eddie Howe, we're not the team that's really gonna control games in terms of possession and keeping the ball, right? But our famous saying is, intensity is our identity, right? And in these first 2 games, we've showed anything but intensity. We started off flat. We look unfit. It's just very puzzling. Like, if you're not gonna, we pride ourselves on our press and our transition football, the pace that we play at, and none of that is there at the moment, and I can't understand why. Now, before we get to the nitty-gritty of the game, obviously, it seems like Newcastle games can't go without controversy, right? So, a couple of incidents there, namely the goal that got disallowed, and also Joelinton. I said last week he needs to channel his aggression, right? My man's out there clotheslining the goalkeeper like a madman, like he wants to star in WWE, bro. Yeah?
JBL.
He's lucky. He got a yellow card. He's lucky not to be sent off with a 3-match
Oh, but
ban.
warrior, boy.
Yeah, madman. But listen, we got away with one again, and I just don't know how long this is going to last. Like, it's quite concerning, because if this is how we're starting the season, boy, we've got tougher tests to come. And you look at Arne Slot, right? When the Liverpool they won the other day, that was their second win, and he said, "Yeah, it's a good start, but let's be honest, the teams we're playing, none of them are you expected to finish top 6." He was very blunt about it. Yeah. So if we're looking at who we've played, yeah, Southampton and Bournemouth, it's the same thing, and we've got 4 points with 0 good performances, really. So things need to improve fast. But I'm going to go to you, AC. What was your general thoughts on the game?
So, first of all, my experience of this game was slightly different to yours, because when it kicked off at 2 p.m. on Sunday, I actually didn't get to watch it live. So what I ended up doing, I watched it later on that day, because as you both know, it was my son's first birthday. By the way, shout out to Kai Kai.
Happy birthday.
Shout out to Kai Kai, first birthday.
Happy birthday.
He's landed. So, celebrating my son's birthday with the family and that, and I got to watch it later on. But obviously, throughout the day, since kickoff, best believe I had people in my ear about schools and stuff like that. And I was checking as well. My brother-in-law was keep giving me the fake news of like, we're down 2-0 and all that. Typical Man United supporter, hating on the facts. But, it was a interesting one as I was seeing what was going on and such. And then when I watched it later, I know the results. So I was watching it and just watching it, every single thing in a little bit more detail, because when you're watching a game later and you know the result, you're almost like, you're obviously not at the edge of your sofa for chances and stuff. You're just a bit more reserved. You're watching all the details. And I was looking at our potential play of how we're trying to move through the midfield. And there were key scenarios when, even if you look at the Joelinton mistake where the ball got taken off him, he took 1 too many touches and such. But not just that, there wasn't enough support around him. It was really weird.
No options.
Our positional play of positions, I think I mentioned to you guys before in the group chat that there was the lack of triangles. There was a lack of progression of doing the 1-2s to get out of trouble, because you need that support from your fellow teammates to obviously knock the ball about, take out 2 players with 1 pass, etc. It was not much evident. Now, credit to Bournemouth though, they were on the front foot. They pressed hard. They were pressing hard.
And the pitch is small as well, so there's less space. So the
pitch is small. Yeah, the pitch is small. They use it well. They congest it, and it's very quite tight. And their star player, let's say, was Semenyo that day. We knew he was a threat. We said on the preview, he is a threat. And I forgot to say, because I think I said to you guys, he plays on the left. No. This guy plays left and right. He can play both, right? So it was trouble. Nice. It was trouble. But it was really, what's really concerning is we've got Isak up front, obviously, but the isolation, man. You're trying to get this guy to try run it into the box and then shoot. It's just why are we making life harder for ourselves? And there was chances as well where the ball should be played to him earlier. I don't want to give a shout out to that particular person who had that chance to feed him, but
I call it out. Sean Longstaff, bro. Yeah,
Longstaff, right?
Limited Longstaff. Yeah.
He didn't feed the ball earlier, and you can see the frustration in Isak's face. He turned around and was like, what the hell? Come on, think about it here. And I just feel like when he doesn't get good service, we don't have a good game, period. We just don't. You're asking him then to try come and get the ball from midfield and that. Bro, this is Alexander Isak. This is not Harry Kane. I don't want him coming midfield to collect the ball. I do not.
Yeah.
Anyway, as the game progressed, we didn't look good enough. And when it hit halftime, I was like, right, there are clearly some changes to be done here. Now, on the preview, I did say about Barnes starting. I did say that Barnes should start. He's clearly got some good fire in his engine at the moment. He's a guy who's on form, to be honest, but we're still having to play him as sub. I don't know what's going on around there. And Murphy just didn't turn up at all. But anyway, the substitutions were too late. Now, you guys know how I feel about late substitutions with Eddie Howe. He seems to have this blueprint pattern of just waiting until it's too late. It's either he waits till we go down so it's actually 2-0 and then does a substitution, or he's literally waiting for the 65th minute mark. Now, I will say this as well, though, that there was some elements there when Trippier came on and he seemed to handle that right-hand side a bit better. And it made me realize that obviously Tino at the moment is not in his best form. And we can get into that a little bit as well. But generally, just saying overall, I can keep going through each of the players and each of the plays and each of the 10 minutes past the game, but we are very lucky to come out of that with a draw, and I think Bournemouth deserve to win. And I don't want to get too much of the VAR controversies, but to be honest, if that was us at St. James's and that was Joelinton who scored the header, we will be fuming. We will be saying we got robbed. So I feel for Bournemouth in that respect.
So let's take it from the top, right? Because obviously we talked about the first 15 minutes and we created a few opportunities, but then after that, Bournemouth gained control of the game, right? And they had the good save from Nick Pope. Semenyo then licks the crossbar, yeah, and then the goal occurs, right? Now, as you mentioned, AC, it's mainly on Joelinton because he was dilly-dallying on the ball, but there was no options for him to pass that ball. Like, no one was within 10 yards of him. It was damn near impossible to find anybody, right? Mm-hmm. Maybe what he should have done is driven with the ball and run with the ball further up the pitch, and then more people can get close.
Or just get it back to the keeper for safety.
Right. But he made the wrong decision, dilly-dallied on it, lost possession, and then obviously they slotted through to the winger. Now, and basically, all right, it's not great defending by I think it's Lloyd Kelly, and I think it might have been Dan Burn, I can't remember. But Tino Livramento is sleeping. Yeah, he's sleeping at the back post. And I've said this before, his concentration levels on the inside channel, yeah, is very questionable. And he got caught out of position. And was it you that said he's got this this kind of like Wan-Bissaka kind of laid back style that ain't always the best. You know what I mean? So
that languid lazy style.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
That's right.
Because he knows he's got the recovery pace. So
right. Yeah,
but he knows he could just catch you up that quickly. Yeah,
right, exactly. But he got caught slipping. So 1-0 down, and he thought this could get ugly. This could get ugly. Now we talking about the obviously halftime comes and you're expecting well, you're not expecting, but you want some substitutions that don't come. However, we have to give Eddie Howe some credit because the substitutions that he did make were very effective. Right, so he took off. Who did he take off? Is it Tino and
Murphy?
Tino and Murphy. Bought on Trippier and Barnes, right?
And Kelly took off Kelly as well.
And bought on Hall.
He did took Kelly, yeah.
Now, credit to Lewis Hall, first of all, because I thought he brought a lot of more offensive, direct play to the game. And we did wonder whether, I did call it that maybe Lloyd Kelly would start this one. And he did. Didn't do too bad, but he offered very little going forward, right? Now, Trippier, credit to Trippier because obviously we know he's had a rough time with things since last season. He's come in, he brought a lot of calmness, composure to the defense. Experience. And I read that he put in more crosses than any other Newcastle player on that pitch within the 33 minutes that he was on the pitch.
Crazy.
So, it just shows maybe like a lot of fans will think they don't mind if we sell him. Maybe we do need him because Tino's hasn't had a great pre-season and start to the season. Trippier might be revitalized. We need the experience, you know what I mean, in certain games and stuff like that. And then Harvey Barnes. So Gordon goes to the right. Harvey Barnes plays on the left. He prefers Fisher's position. And then again, You saw more direct play. You saw he was closer to Isak. He was putting in more crosses. I didn't know Fabregas could cross a ball, but he was putting a few crosses. Yeah,
He's whipping the ball.
I think was it Joelinton or Burnley put the cross in for? I can't remember.
Yeah,
and obviously the equaliser, lovely ball over the top to Gordon on the other side, who was having a poor game, by the way, but important contribution away from home, which is rare, to get the equaliser. And after those changes, I think later on he brought in Joe Willock, who brought a lot of more running with the ball as well, which is good to see. But we were the better team after the changes, after we made those changes. So, like you said, Jefferson, had he made those changes earlier, we could have probably gone on to win the game, right? So you have to give him some credit for the changes he made, whether albeit a bit late.
But D-Man, it's the same thing again and again, isn't it? You know, we reviewed certain, obviously within our group, we reviewed certain games from last season, and it's the same thing, innit? He's not learning. For me, it was very sort of similar to Fulham. It's just that Bournemouth played better than Fulham, and we should have sort of lost that game. This game rather. Why are you waiting till that time to make those substitutions? So for me, Eddie isn't guilt-free on the basis of poor team selection, because there was no reason to drop Hall. Yes, we agree his performance wasn't the best, but he shouldn't have been dropped. And actually, there's something in there about Kraft. Can he fill in at centre back? Lloyd Kelly's more of a he can cover centre back. I know you would have had two left-sided centre backs, but I would have rather Kelly at centre back and Hall at left back than playing Kraft, who was having a torrid time. So he has to take accountability for that. Sean Longstaff, I don't want to see him play for the club again. It's that bad. It's that bad. From time Isak he's run 20 yards to pretty much shake him to say, "Oi, what's going on? Give me the effing ball, bruv." He's got that lack of quality. So he's not got that vision or confidence to play the ball. And there's certain things I think in terms of, we already discussed it, that Barnes should have started. Why are you starting Gordon when his head's been turned and he's clearly not on form? And the other thing is, try and experiment, show some bravery. So even if you are gonna start Kelly at left back, we've seen in pre-season Hall coming into the midfield. Why don't you put 4 in the midfield and play Hall in the midfield? Why is Longstaff starting over Willock? You know, it's the same sort of repetitiveness, and he'll do it again. You know, he'll do it again. Like we heard in the press conference, he's already saying, "Oh, you know, Barnes is left side. They're competing for one side." But you've literally just made those substitutions when you're desperate, and we've seen that it works.
Yeah.
So why don't you give it a
Why
go?
not try it? Yeah. Especially if we don't sign a right winger before the transfer deadline, which is looking very unlikely. AC, what are your thoughts on the likes of Joelinton and his performance? Because we obviously last week we praised him, how good he is. You know, Jefferson made that bold claim that he's a better number 8 than Declan Rice, which got a lot of heat. But is this a one-off from Joelinton, or he was poor, right?
Yeah, I couldn't believe what I was watching. It looked like, I don't know, he had a late night sleep or something, or the travel was bad. I don't know, but I think I see somewhere quoting, it might have actually been Craig Hope, actually, our favorite journalist, Craig Hope, saying about Joelinton went from a lion to a lamb, which is like, I have to admit, when I heard that, I was like, that's quite accurate, you know. I can't even complain with that. But I don't know, man. It's just a weird one. Just wasn't there at all. And I think, like, briefing the team must have knew that Bournemouth were going to come at us. Bournemouth do that to every team that go to Fatality Stadium. This is not nothing new. This is Bournemouth at home. It's very aggressive. It's very
under Howe anyway.
Yeah, and it's just like, you know, Joelinton there just wasn't at all sharp with it. I just
should have been sent off.
Boy, there's no need for that kind of movement on the goalkeeper. No need. And it's the way he did it as well. He completely took off his neck.
You see what he's trying to do, and he's trying to stop him taking the quick goal kick. But at the same time, there's ways and means, man. I mean, you've assaulted him. You basically assaulted him.
But I tell you what, though, if he did get sent off, like, fan base would have been in meltdown mode. Would have had 2 players sent off in 2 games. The total of 6 days off games for both players. and then we were looking at things like, what the hell's going on? But we know Joelinton is just a very almost like a Jekyll and Hyde kind of player with the aggression side of his game. Now, I mentioned before that Bruno is very similar. It must be Brazilian blood, man. These men are just
they're nutters.
They're crazy with it. But Bruno has he's really changed his game where he controls himself, a bit more composed in that sense.
Self-awareness. Yeah?
His awareness, isn't it? You're not really going to catch Bruno doing the odd to anybody this season, especially with the captaincy.
No, I think you will. I think you will get the odd one.
Arsenal again, isn't it? It's going to be Arsenal again, isn't it?
That's going to be mad, bro. It's going to be mad. But
to be honest, though, it's because also Bournemouth was a team that there wasn't like Southampton who were there to try to wind us up as well. I didn't see none of that kind of
No, Bournemouth played there to play football.
No, Bournemouth are not doing the dark arts of trying to wind us up. Like Southampton was a complete opposite. They're there to wind us up. They almost it's almost like Southampton knew they couldn't beat us in the play of football, so they had to bring in some other play.
By any means necessary, innit?
Us. Yeah.
No. But then, all right, quickly, Jefferson, the disallowed goal. Was it a handball? Were Bournemouth hard done by?
It's a very interesting one because remember this season they've said that sort of VAR aren't going to interfere as much. So if I remember correctly, the on-field decision was goal, and then VAR interfered by saying, "Have a look." Now, when you look at the replay again, it doesn't look like a handball. Apparently, it's come off his bicep. And the law states that anything below the sleeve line is a handball. So apparently, by the letter of the law, it actually was a handball.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a weird one in that sense, where I still feel sorry for them, but yeah, that the law is an ass, as they say. The law is the law, unfortunately.
It's interesting.
And they need to get that balance right. Do VAR interfere or not interfere?
And it's interesting that VAR got involved and didn't tell him to come to the screen. They just literally told him to rule it out. Yeah. So that was very interesting, because I think had he gone to the monitor, he might have upheld his decision. But they've just told him, look, by the letter of the law, it's a handball. You got to disallow it.
Exactly. VAR was very confident in the decision. They were confident in it, but
we'll take it. End of the day, we got very fortunate because I suppose on the way the game went, the fact that we were better after the changes got made. So and we had 15 minutes before, maybe a draw was a fair result, but I just don't think any Newcastle fan could complain had we lost that game. Yeah,
it deserved to lose, man.
Yeah, I mean, what we do know is that if we're going to be contenders for European places and especially top four, these are the games that you really need to be picking up the 3 points against. Right?
Absolutely.
When you go to the likes of Emirates, City's ground and all that, and Anfield, all right, you'll be lucky to get away with a point. But these teams here, you should be picking up 3 points, and I'm struggling to find an overall positive from it to spin this as a positive, because yes, we've got 4 points, but when we looked at the fixtures, we expected 6 points from these 2 games and maybe a point against Spurs, whatever. So if we end up with 7 points, right, fair enough. That's not too bad.
We're still on track then, yeah.
Yeah, but it puts extra pressure on that Spurs game now to get a win. And it's not going to be like Spurs before, where we played them late in the season, when they're arguably out of form or whatever it is, got suspensions, whatever. This time we're playing pretty much a fresh, all right, there's no Solanke, but a fresh Spurs team who've back up a 4-0 slapping of Everton. They're going to be confident, and it's going to be a lot more difficult. So, which we will preview later on in the week. But we've also, before that, we've got the League Cup game going to the City ground, Forest. To visit our old mate Elliot Anderson and co.
Anderson.
Just before we wrap up, is this a must-win game, right? Because we all agreed before that. The league position is more important. Maybe we would have said the Spurs game is more important at the time. But had your thoughts changed, AC, on this one?
I think it has slightly. I kind of feel like we need to start building some momentum towards our start of our season. And I've been hearing things about, traditionally, Eddie Howe as a manager, he never has, strong momentum at the start of the season. He almost, gets better throughout the campaign. But, we got to look at the dark side of the fence, that if we lose this game against Forest, that pressure on that game against Spurs is going to be one hell of a game. It's going to feel like a cup final. It's going to be feeling like a really early cup final in the season. And also in perspective, Spurs have 4 points just like us in the league. This is a big game in terms of like who's going to have the upper edge now to kind of like cement themselves a little bit. I know it's early and we shouldn't be like panicking over the points and such like that, but I'm telling you, man, these early games are going to count later on in the season. So I feel like we need to win against Forest. We need to show some, our attitude. We need to show our intensity, like our identity, like you said earlier. And where we're questioning things before about who's going to start, they're going to rest players and such. This is going to be really interesting to see what the lineup's going to be. If it's a full force lineup of like pretty much the same team with a few changes, it's showing that Eddie Howe's obviously going all out and showing his card of like, no, I want to compete in this cup kind of thing.
Okay.
But there are some other things surrounding this, and I think the biggest hype surrounding this is the return of Sandro Tonali. Right. I don't think he will start him because I know that's Eddie Howe. He won't do that. He won't start him like that. He won't put him in there. But he will be on the bench, I think. And go on.
It will definitely be in the squad. And I think Eddie Howe's confirmed that. But you have to start him. You have to start him because at the end of the day, like you need to have him in contention for the Spurs game. So see how he performs on this one. Not saying complete the full game because obviously he's been out for 10 months, right? Let him get, I don't know, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, whatever it is. Get some match fitness in his legs. So then he gives you that dilemma of do you start him in that Spurs game? Because I'm telling you, there is no better time. There's no better time to start him because I'd like to see him start from the scratch against Spurs team, but you can't throw him in cold turkey if he comes off the bench tomorrow for like half an hour. That makes sense. But even if you have to take him off in the Spurs team as well, let him get into the swing of things, man. Because listen, Longstaff is not the answer, bro. He's not. And it's the perfect time to. We've still got enough players available to go against Forest, but still rest, right?
Yeah,
Tonali,
like we could.
Tonali, they have to play. Even give Osula a run out. Rest Isak for a little bit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think I'm not saying this is a must-win for Eddie Howe, but it kind of is. Like
it is.
If we lose,
I think it is now. I think it is.
Considering how we started that season, the season so far with the performances being underwhelming, and we go and do that again tomorrow and actually lose, and that's another competition we can't win. A lot more fans are going to start questioning him, and the fact that we haven't made no signing or major signings yet, that's even worse. Because Mark he played tonight.
Yeah. Now the Mark Gahey thing, bro. I don't.
We're not gonna dwell on that because
there's no point at this stage because we might as well just talk about another time when the transfer window is finished, and then we can evaluate and look at what actually happened. But going back to this whole like, is it a must win? It is. I think he has to win it because at the end of the day, if you don't win this game and you lose this, and let's say we lose against Spurs on the weekend as well. I talked about before about the thin ice cracking, right? It's going to really start cracking. People don't want to hear that. People are going to feel like, no, it's early, like it'll be fine kind of thing. But if these results don't go the way, and also on the other side of things with the business deals and stuff like that, with the transfers, and there's nothing happening, questions will be asked quite quickly. In my opinion, it has to be that.
I think I'm of the view of, for me, I'm looking for the performance, not the result. I think if it's a tight game and we lose 2-1 or we lose 3-2, but we play well and we give a good account of ourselves, I'd feel a lot better for it because the performances from the first 2 games have been dire. However, I think another objective is to get as many of the squad players a run out as possible because some of them have not played since pre-season. Obviously, I know Eddie made a few changes in this last game, but you mentioned Osula. I think let the squad play. Make 8, 9, 10 changes, whatever you need to make. I think the key to the season is remaining fresh, injury-free, So we shouldn't really be risking our first teamers in this game. I'd rather them be fresher and come into that Spurs game firing.
Just quickly then,
Yeah.
Jepson, who starts in goal? Because we had John Ruddy on the bench at the weekend, bro.
Oh my God.
So that tells me that he said Dubs had a slight injury, which I don't believe, but he wants rid of Oddy, because that was a favour for Forest. Funny enough, we're playing it tomorrow, but he wants him out, and I think he wants the Brathwaite out.
We should play
So
Oddy.
Obviously, there's links to James Trafford now, which we ain't going to get into, but
No,
when I saw John Ruddy on the bench on the weekend, I almost had a heart attack. Yeah, because all I kept thinking, is if Pope gets injured, this brother is going to be between the sticks for us, and we will be a laughing stock.
Relegated with Birmingham last season. I know,
That's
obviously, that's not his fault, but as we signed him, technically he was a League One goalkeeper. So you have to argue that's not good enough. He's 37. Obviously, I think we've soon discovered that Oddy isn't good enough. He'll probably be sent out on loan. Listen, if Dubravka's around, if he's not injured, he may have to play. Do you know what I mean? Again, I wouldn't even risk Pope. I wouldn't risk him. Or Gillespie. Like, we've got Gillespie in the squad. The guy never plays, man. Let him play. Like, the way I see it is, boys, I really don't care about League Cup too much because, again, I might have to double check, but I just think the prize at the end ain't worth it. The risks are high.
It's not. But if we get a trophy, if we win the League Cup, I said it before, if we win the League Cup, that parade is going to be bonkers. Yeah.
But would you, if there was a legitimate chance, though, D-Man, a legitimate chance? Obviously, it's hard to know because we ain't got a crystal ball. Do you know what I'm saying? But let's just say there's a legitimate chance. Who knows? We turn our form around, and going into the semi-final and final in sort of January, February time, we're fourth or third in the league. Do you know what I mean? Do you think it's worth it to go all in on this cup?
What?
And then our form tails off after that, as we head into Easter and stuff.
What if we're in the semi-finals of the League Cup at that time?
Yeah, but we're in the top four. But we're in the top four at the same time.
But we have
to go for it in the semis. If we're in the semis, we have to go for the cup.
Yeah,
we have to.
It's not going to happen. But I mean, we'd have to go. So close to the cup.
I know what Jefferson's alluding to. He's alluding to the fact that you get to that point, and let's say we just don't do enough again in that cup final, and
it's all been a waste.
It's a drop off.
Even if you win it, you get Conference League. You might as
well naturally the team's morale will be down, and then
but if you win it, we got to Newcastle. Yeah, it's gonna be one hell of a memory, bro. You're never gonna forget that. Yeah, our first trophy since we've been alive. Yeah. Man ain't seen a proper trophy since we've been alive.
Since we've been alive.
It's a toe.
And I don't care that man will be laughing at because it's the League Cup. I don't care. It's a trophy.
It's so weird to say that, isn't it? That since we've been alive, like our team hasn't won anything.
There's man out there that's 65 years old who would never thought they'd get to 65 and not see Newcastle win a trophy. Now, if we get to 65 and Newcastle don't win a trophy, I'm going to lose it, bro. I'm going to lose it. Yeah? So, but at this point now, obviously, Champions League is more important. But if we get to the semi-final and we've got a chance, we play like a lower league team or whatever it is, a championship team to get to the final, well, if you just... You can't just play your reserve team.
The other thing I think you need to do, the other thing as well, 4-3-3 is tough to play with as it is, right? But to do it away from home, like it's with so taxing on the players with no DM. We played against Bournemouth, who played a 4-2-3-1. 4-2-3-1 is a more balanced, it's a more balanced form of that kind of formation.
Mm-hmm.
So Eddie needs to experiment, man.
We're so methodical.
Our 4-3-3 looks so flat and boring and uninspired. And I also think
Steve Bruce vibes.
Credit to these teams though. These teams, I hate to say it, but these teams have worked us out tactically because it's the same. I don't like saying this, but it's the same formation and it's also the same personnel. So it's like there's nothing really. This is why I think I don't want to get into this right wing discussion about transfers, but imagine if you did have someone on the right wing who's going to bring you double figures in assists and goals, we're then talking about a different structure to that team. All of a sudden, you know, it's not so predictable with like, oh, pass the ball to Gordon. Gordon's going to try fight Isaac. Oh, he's going to try cutting and shoot. It's so predictable.
What if Gordon goes Liverpool? Who we pass it to then?
Boy.
Told you already. If Gordon goes Liverpool, man, this 90 Max podcast might have to retire early. We'll have to hang up our shirts and just say, you know what?
I will be toast. I will be finished on social media because certain men are going to have it in for me the way I've been going on about Gordon. But anyway.
It's been a terrible window, guys. It's been up there with
been
one of the
shambolic.
worst.
It's been shambolic.
It's been
There's
bad,
no
really
getting
bad.
away from that.
Anyone that doesn't admit that, because we know what the deal is, but anyone that doesn't admit that, they need a psych evaluation, I think.
And all jokes is, we're now apparently looking at another goalkeeper to join our goalkeepers.
Well, again, going back to
we're going back to it.
When the one that we wanted is going to Liverpool, has signed for Liverpool.
And also the worst thing about it is they're looking at, the rumor is it's a potential loan move. And you know how I feel about the loan move game when it comes to the budgets. Because you best believe that budget, which is taken out of our summer transfer next summer, right?
All we know is loan.
You're not going to like it. And if we don't finish for Europe,
what's the logic? What is the logic in terms of they're saying this guy, will provide competition for Nick Pope? Well, he's a championship goalkeeper at the moment. He's not at Nick Pope's level, so he's not going to be providing any sort of competition for.
He couldn't start ahead of
Nick
Is
Pope.
it Muric?
Who's now gone to Ipswich
and still making errors
and still really poor. Like I say, I think it was over 60 goals in 28 games. Disgraceful. He's not of the level required if we're looking.
What's the average there? Is it like 2.5 goals per game or something?
Yeah, 2.4 a game. That's disgraceful. It's basically the same as Dubravka. So yes, the only difference is his age and Eddie's got tons of
English.
But it makes no sense. If you sign Mamadashvili, we would have had a similar situation as Chelsea had with
Liverpool. Got him now as well.
You've got someone who both players ready could jump in as number ones. They'll bring out the best out of each other. And potentially, because Pope is 32, 33 still, he's still got some kind of sell on value. So if it got to the point next season that, we need to sell Pope, we would pick up 15, 20 for him. So that almost pays for 3/4 of the transfer because Liverpool are only paying 30 million for Mamadashvili.
Cheap, man.
It's not breaking the
bank.
bank.
Good business, man. Then that's a good business. But listen.
And they're greedy. They've already got Alisson. Do you know what I mean?
Liverpool have bought him, Mamadashvili, but he's immediately going to be on loan for Valencia. So Valencia are paying Liverpool right now for the loan.
And guess what? Before we wrap up, they're going to get Chiesa as well. But so I think we're going to have to leave it there because we could be here all night. Yeah, let's leave that till September the 1st, isn't it? When the transfer deadline finishes, right? But we'll wrap up there. Thank you all for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe as usual. And you can catch us on the Spotify and Apple Podcast on the audio. And we should have a Spurs preview for you later on in the week, hopefully with a special guest. But until then, we're out. Peace.
Peace.
Salute. Take it easy, people. We're out.